What's up, guys? Amy and I are traveling. We're in Idaho now. Need to still make some more videos. This video is about our wholeness. Uh, if you've ever been to one of Amy's breathworks, whether you came to the retreat, rewilding, nurtured by nature, the connection code, or just one of the breathworks events. Sometimes we just do a breathwork event. At the end of the breathwork, and in each one of those events, we always follow the same tradition. And we gather everyone together. We do a quick integration circle. And just before we start the integration circle, we always play this song, The Broken Hallelujah. Or I think the song is called The Holy Hallelujah. And there's a line in there, and I want to read this line to you because I think this will set up more context for the videos that are coming. There's a blaze of light in every word. It doesn't matter which you heard, the holy or the broken hallelujah. And so the question becomes, like, what does hallelujah actually imply? Now, there's the direct translation of it, and then there's the implication of it. The implication of the word hallelujah is essentially saying that we're praising the Lord, or we're praising God. And the praise of that is that when we have this inner connection and we feel God in our lives. Challenge is most of us feel quite broken. At least I do quite a lot. And I love that line from that song, because it's essentially saying, whether you're coming down the broken road. I think it was Rascal Flatts that had that song, God Bless the Broken Road That Led Me Straight to You. I think somebody should make a song that says, God bless the broken road that led me straight to me, meaning that I get to make peace with all of my brokenness. The brokenness is a part of the wholeness, right? So we have these parts of ourself that we generally judge. It's generally based in blame, based in shame, based in not feeling good enough or not being good enough. And we'll talk about where all that comes from. There's amazing research that's been done in psychology to explain that. And once you see where it comes from, it's like, oh, how come this is the first time I might be hearing this? But whether it's the broken hallelujah or the holy hallelujah, we will experience that. We generally tend to experience the broken road. The broken road comes with a lot of pain. So the question comes is, what do I do with my pain? And again, this will be contextualizing some of those videos that are going to come, and what we're doing with the pain and the truth that's behind that pain and our triggers. But it doesn't matter which road you're taking, because all the roads lead back to this one essential core innate truth, and that is that you are whole, that I'm whole, that we're all whole. And Dr. James Hollis, in his book, The Eden Project, he said something. If you haven't got that book, I highly recommend going and reading that book. But if you read that book, what it says in there is that there are no illogical behaviors. I think another way of saying that is every behavior is logical if we can understand the premise of why we're behaving that way, or why the other person is behaving that way. So hurt people hurt people, healed people heal people, right? So it doesn't matter which road that you're coming from or which angle you're coming from. It's all going to lead back to your wholeness. And that, I think, is the essence of what Jesus was saying. Again, I like using Buddha, quoting Lao Tzu, particularly the higher conscious branches or currents of the major religions like Christianity or Buddhism. and not to like follow too many tangents, but Buddha wasn't a Buddhist. Jesus wasn't a Christian. Lao Tzu wasn't a Taoist. Those are belief systems that came from their way of living. And when we analyze their way of living, they essentially were all saying so much of the same message. In some cases, identical message. And that is that we are all whole. And the story that I like to use to articulate this best, I think, can be found in Jesus's most famous sermon, which is known as the Sermon on the Mount. And this is in the New Testament in Matthew chapter 5 and 6. It goes into chapter 7, but I think it ends in like verse 1. So it's really Matthew 5 and 6. And in Matthew chapter 5, it starts out with the Beatitudes. So like, blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. And, all these ways that your attitude can help you in your becoming of who you really, truly are. But in verse 48 in chapter 5, he says, and I'll give you the King James version, and then I'm going to give you the Greek version. In the King James version, it says, be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father in heaven is perfect. In the Greek translation, this isn't the direct Greek translation, but the word perfect it comes from the Greek word teleos. And teleos, the root word is to aim. Telos means to aim. So I have a correct aim at my target. And then when you hit that target that you're aiming for and you're getting the bullseye, then you're teleos. So it's like a possessive of your ability to hit the aim. And it's translated as perfect, but in the 1600s, the word perfect meant more like whole or complete. So that's also a fair translation for the Greek word teleos. And in other words, what it says is, be ye whole. And you could think of it as own your wholeness or realize your wholeness, that you are complete, that you have all that you need, even as you are, even as your Father in heaven. This means that we have to start to adopt a realization that we are gods. Jesus also said that in, I believe it was the book of Mark. Might be Mark or Luke. I'll bring that up in some other videos. He says, ye are gods. And so you're spiritual beings having a human experience, and the human experience is essentially very, very messy. And it's very messy because we have these broken beliefs about ourselves. But a child, if you go back to like a child, no infant is sitting there thinking, I'm broken. Those are things that we adopt as we go through life. And Jesus is speaking to adults, and what he's saying is you've got to go back to that, be as a child, right? And then he also said, until you can become as a child, you'll never enter the kingdom of heaven. And he also said that the kingdom of heaven is within you. So it's about making peace with the things that we believe are broken about ourselves. And when we can make peace with it, that might have been because we walked down the broken road. And it also might be that we're experiencing and walking down the holy road, meaning I have experienced that even in my, lack of better words, fuckery, there's still this wholeness that's about me and in this innateness. And that's the thing that we're aiming at. So that's part of why we sing that song after every breath work. And that is going to be one of these foundational threads or a cornerstone that we're always broken. So going back to James Hollis says in the Eden Project, there is no illogical behavior. And I think another way of saying that is that all behavior is logical as long as we can understand the premise of the behavior. And an example that he gives in a Andrew Huberman interview that he did, and I'll put the link up for that so you can watch that interview as well. It's phenomenal. Is he says, imagine that you have a man, and a man is sitting in a room. And he's sitting in his chair, and all of a sudden he gets up and he starts walking back and forth, and he's kind of anxious, and there's like a bit of neurosis that's showing up, right? Anxiety, depression. And and he's panicking a little bit. And he takes the chair and he throws it through the window. And most of us, without having the context or the premise of what that is going on inside of him, we would say that's a very illogical behavior. In fact, he's kind of lost his mind, and he's flown the cuckoo's nest. And we would say he's violent and he's aggressive and he's terrible and he's all these things, or he's unstable and he's unwell. Upon interviewing the man had perceived that there was no more oxygen in the room. And so if you can put yourself in a room where there is no oxygen, and the only way to get the oxygen is to either exit the room, but if you can't exit the room, then you've got to get oxygen that's outside that window into the room, otherwise you're going to die. And so the guy solves the problem by picking up the chair and throwing it through the window. So now we've just understood the premise of what that man's behavior was all about. And we can say, well, from that perspective, that is a very logical behavior. So there is no illogical behavior. And while there is a perception of brokenness, simultaneously, there is something that is diabolically opposed to that perception. And that is, you are complete and you are whole, even as you are, even as the gods. And that's going to be something that we will dive deeper into. And this will be part of those little tiny shifts in consciousness. So if this is something that's really hard to grasp, this is what we'll want to talk about in our one-on-one sessions. Again, I'll provide some more books and links and articles that I've written to be able to help support that. But you are broken and you are simultaneously whole, and it doesn't matter which road we go down. Eventually, it all leads to us coming to the realization that there are no illogical behaviors. Therefore, there is no judgment. And now we have that awareness. We can start making conscious choices to make shifts in what we believe about ourselves. And when we make those inner belief shifts, then our external behaviors also shift, and it all starts to fall into alignment. Look forward to the next video, and leave any comments that you have in the comment section, and let's discuss more about that.